Absolutely all of the answers that we are looking for live within us. Our higher self that communicates with us through our intuition already knows exactly the path that we need to take to find the happiest, most fulfilled, and highest potential of who we are. The problem is that if our life is so loud, if our life is full of so many responsibilities and things, how are we going to hear it? How are we going to pick up the subtle messages of the higher self through the intuition? Now, I have to start this conversation by saying that to me, spirituality is the most important thing in my life. In other words, having a connection with what I call the universe, God, source, spirit. And yet, I'm also incredibly human. I'm not one of these people that love spirituality, that live disconnected from the city, disconnected from responsibilities. I'm a single mother. I have a job. I have so many responsibilities, bills to pay, and also studying at university all at the same time. And on top of that, I have a very active mind, a mind that has an insatiable thirst to learn. So I love listening to YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, educating myself, reading, connecting. And so the question becomes, how do I continue to be integrated in this life, in this reality, as an adult human being that is actively participating in the system, but I maintain my connection to my intuition, my connection to my higher self, and actually have clarity on what steps to take, what directions to take? So I want us to explore this a little bit. I think it's an incredibly important, especially in this time of so much content, of so much information that we aren't just bombarded by, but that we have access to. So it's not always a negative thing that we have access to so much information, but how do I balance this? How do I balance my responsibilities? Now, this is important because we all are seeking guidance. We all have important decisions to make every single day of our life. Every day we have to decide, am I going to act this way? Am I going to act this way? Am I going to choose this or am I going to choose this? And essentially those decisions are what create your life. Where you are standing today, who you are, is a consequence of all of the decisions that you have made since you were born. And so decisions are important. And the question is, where are those decisions coming from? Am I choosing to do this because this is authentically what I believe is right for me, what I feel in my body is right for me? Or am I choosing to do this because I am being swayed by life? Or is it because I just don't know what to do and I'm just making quick decisions based on my programming, but I'm not actually really thinking about them and they're not actually coming from an authentic place? So this is why this conversation is important. It's not just about you having peace of mind. It's not just about you feeling good about where you're at. It's not just about you cultivating this sense of tranquility and stability within. It's also about the life that you are creating. If you walk through life always with so many tasks, with so many responsibilities, where you wake up, you don't even have 5-10 minutes to be with yourself, where are your decisions coming from? It's as if you are just riding a wave that you're not actually even riding it. You're being like tossed and turned by this wave, and you're not able to come up for air. And what becomes of your life when you live that way? Where do you end up? What I've noticed and what I believe is that when we make unconscious decisions, that is the only kinds of decisions that we can make if we are choosing out of desperation and choosing out of fear and choosing out of programming without conscious thought, then we end up in lives where we are unhappy. Then we end up with jobs that don't actually resonate with us, that aren't actually aligned with what we are meant to do, ending up in relationships that aren't actually aligned with what we actually desire, ending up repeating the same patterns of our parents, grandparents, and our lineage. And so a lot of people wake up. This is the midlife crisis, and then they say, this isn't the life that I want. This isn't the relationship that I want. This isn't the job that I want. This isn't where I want to be. And the reason that happens is because who made the decisions that took that person to that place? It was the programming. It was, let me just do what they say I should do. It was, let me just act and become the person I'm told I need to be. Because that's the only person that you can be if you're choosing and making decisions unconsciously without connection to your higher self, without connection to your intuition, without actually receiving guidance from within. And so what is the consequence of this? It's unhappiness, it's confusion, it's frustration, and it's feeling like you're trapped in a life that isn't for you. So how do you get out of it? Or how do we avoid it? Or how do I choose something different and not end up like that, unhappy with the life that I have? I deeply believe that the path to that is through the guidance of your inner spirit. In other words, not making decisions based on just the easiest thing to do, based on programming and fear and unconscious decisions, but actually being able to hear what's right for me, what resonates in my body, what feels aligned. The thing is, the only way for you to actually be able to notice what feels aligned and what resonates and what feels right in my body is if you have space to be with yourself. If you have space to listen to your own thoughts and to feel your own body. And that is why for so many people, having a life that is so jam-packed by so many things is actually one of the main causes of suffering and of just continuing the same patterns over and over again. So this video is actually about the power of disconnecting to reconnect. Disconnecting from the responsibilities, disconnecting from the constant tasks, disconnecting from always absorbing information and always having noise around you that doesn't allow the silence through which you can actually hear yourself think and hear yourself feel. Disconnecting from that so that you can reconnect, plug back in to yourself. Now, this can mean that you might have certain periods of time, or maybe you listen to this and you realize you've been so connected that you want to take some time to disconnect from everything and have a few days of quiet, and sure, that's valid. But what this really means and how I think we can approach this is through looking for balance and through looking for our first steps. If you are somebody that has a very busy life like me, you have many roles to play, you have many things to do, I want to ask you, in that space of your life, how much time do you spend with yourself? Time with yourself means maybe you take a walk, but you're not listening to anything but music, or maybe in silence. Maybe it means journaling. Maybe it means sitting in silence and meditation with yourself in the morning or in the evening, or maybe it simply means that before you go to bed, you turn everything off and you just lay there with your eyes closed and you feel your body and you listen to your thoughts. It is in these moments of spaciousness and inner silence that we are able to receive guidance, that we are able to hear what is right for us, that we are able to find the clarity on what decisions we need to make. In an ideal situation, that would become a routine, that would become who you are, that would become the way that you live, having pockets and spaces of silence with yourself every single day, and maybe a day every now and then where you don't have anything to do. But unfortunately for most of us, that is not the reality. I actually think we're living in a time where it may be harder than ever to live in connection with ourselves. We may be living in a time where to actually live in deep connection with your intuition and higher self requires that you act in a drastically different way than most people. Why? Because most people live disconnected from themselves because they're plugged into everything outside of them 24/7. And I've been that person sometimes, and I don't even realize it. You don't even realize it because it's just so easy to fall into the trap. All social media is designed specifically to capture your attention. How many times have you sat down and looked at your phone and then looked up and it's an hour later? How many nights have you spent doom scrolling? How much of your time is spent just having your attention on things that aren't actually giving you answers, aren't actually filling your life with more value, but are simply distracting you from yourself? That is essentially what this conversation is about. The realization that so much of what we do actually comes from a place in which we are running away from ourselves, thinking that within there's something scary and uncomfortable, because often there is when we haven't felt our pain, our grief, or our anger, but forgetting that within is actually where we find the answers. There isn't a teacher, there isn't a video, there isn't a course, there isn't a book, there isn't anything outside of yourself that knows what you need better than you know it. So if there's one thing I want to leave you with in this video, it is the importance of spending time with yourself, because everything you seek is there. The clarity on what decision to make is there. The answer to the problem that you're having is there. So we must use our willpower, our clarity, and our courage to make a different choice, to live a different way, to disconnect from the noise so that we can reconnect to our own truth. I'd love to just leave you with this reflection, asking you to think about how much time do you truly spend with yourself? Not listening, not consuming, not distracting, simply being in the presence of your own energy. I promise you that that is where you will find everything that you are seeking. So thanks for listening, and I trust that you are left with something valuable for yourself after listening to this video. If you want to dive deeper with me, check the links in the description to learn more about my offerings. And I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. I'll see you later.